Hello, welcome to Sarah Overbooked. I am Sarah, and today I am going over my Reindeer Readathon TBR. This is basically going to be what I'm calling my December recap, even though it's kitty. Even though it's not all that I read in December, it is what is going to be my recap. Come here, baby. Okay. Dasher is a book where the combined sum total of all numbers in the page count must be greater than 12. Okay, so get the cat out of the way. For Dasher, I read... get the other cat out of the way. Okay, let's go. For Dasher, I read The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, something like that. The final page count of this book is 477, so a total of 18. Okay. The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi is a cozy adventure fantasy book. I continuously pick these up. I like them, but I don't type thing. I have that type of relationship with them. I'm not huge on the cozies because I like my fantasies and whatnot to have consequences, risks. But cozies don't, especially ones where the first chapter you realize you're getting the story from the main character, so you know that they're gonna be fine at the end of the story. Basically, it's a cozy, you know, everybody who has a main role is going to be fine for the most part, 99% of the cozies. The only ones that everybody is cannon fodder is the cozy mysteries. That's why I'll read those more than any of the other cozies, but they're still fun. So yes, I read them. And then let's see, Dancer. Dancer is a book that, what does that say? A book that matches one of the first 5 words that you find in the word search. They give you a word search. And I found historical fiction. So I read Memoirs of a Geisha. I also used this as, I believe it is the Christmas Star? Nope. This is the Christmas Tree, a book I normally wouldn't read. I am not a huge historical fiction fan. I don't like just following somebody in their normal life a lot. I find it tedious and boring a lot of the times. Just like coming of age stories, I find them tedious and boring more often than not. But I bought this because I saw the movie and I really liked the movie, so I bought the book, and it has sat and languished on my shelves for years and years and years. But I finally read it, and it was okay. It was interesting. He did a lot of research into it, but there's controversy around the book that he may have taken too much liberty. Who knows? It's fiction. It's not a true story, so take that as you will. I'm not mad that I read it, but it's not gonna be one of the best books that I've read ever in my life. And it will be donated out somewhere, somehow. I'm not sure how yet. And the next prompt is Prancer, a title that has at least 7 syllables. This one I did not read what I said I was going to read in my TBR. Instead, I read The Buffalo Hunter. I got this as soon as it came out. Stephen Graham Jones is one of my favorite authors. and I didn't read it, and it sat there and it sat there, and then I recommended it to somebody who was looking for an owned a voice book, and I realized that I recommended it without reading it. So I started reading it, and it just happened to fit into the 7-syllable prompt. Not my favorite Stephen Graham Jones, but like book 5 on my list of favorites, so it's still up there. It's still good. The thing about Stephen Graham Jones is he writes like somebody's actually talking to you, so you have to have the imagination to picture everything. There's many sentences in here where the guy is telling his story, and it's like, and I got hit right here, and he doesn't explain where here is. You just have to imagine it, that he's pointing to somewhere on his body, things like that. I enjoy it. I like it. This is a story within a story within a story. We start with the great-great-granddaughter finds a journal of her great-great-grandfather. Then jumps to the great-great-grandfather's journal, which is actually him writing the story of somebody's confession that came in. He's a vicar or a pastor at, I don't remember. I think he's a Lutheran church in the 1800s. Apparently, the religion stuff was wrong. I don't know a ton about it. It was right enough for me. I don't know that much about it, so that didn't bother me. But the shit, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, it's the story of the great-great-granddaughter finding the great-great-grandfather's journal, reading his story about getting the confession of the buffalo hunter, who is a vampire. And I did enjoy this one. I'm glad I fit it in and got that one read in this year. And our next one is Vixen. The author has an initial in their name, and for that I read Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This was on my 25 in 2025, which I did horribly on, and there should be a wrap-up, hopefully, about that coming out soon. Razorblade Tears. The fathers of 2 gay men who were killed in what is thought to be a hate crime, decide that the police aren't going to be able to figure out what happened because nobody's talking to them. Nobody wants to talk to the police. So they decide to take it on themselves to figure out what happened to their boys. They weren't the best fathers in the world, but after their sons died, they feel they need to make up for that, atone for their poor treatment of their sons, and learn some lessons along the way. Both of them are ex-cons, so they have some extra skills in this type of dealings and some connections that they can use. This one's good. I'm probably going to reread it at some point because I don't know. I was reading this when I started to get sick, and as you can hear, I am still feeling ill. And maybe that might have knocked me out of it a little bit because I was really feeling bad for a while there. So I'm going to reread this, and maybe I will enjoy it a little bit better. It was still good, don't get me wrong. I really did enjoy it. Just so many people loved it so much. I want to give it another chance. And then comment was based on your astrology sign, and I am a Sagittarius. I had to read a book that was pink, black, or purple. And for that one, I read Severance by Ling Ma. This is a apocalyptic story, dystopian. There's a virus. Is it a virus? I think it's a virus. That goes around, that kills 90% of the population or more. And we follow Candace, is that her name? Yes, Candace. We follow Candace before, during, and after the outbreak. Before, she moved away from home after her parents passed away. She moved to New York, been living there, got a job in publishing, and the outbreak starts and people start dying. They call it the fever, I believe, and they just stop doing having any real thought process. It's just doing the same thing over and over again. They stop eating and same old type virus that goes through these books. We follow Candace as she decides that she needs to get out of New York after there's pretty much hardly no one left. So she takes a cab and she drives out, and she's found by a wandering group that takes her in, and then things happen and she needs to get away from the group. So that's Severance. It was good. Not the best illness apocalyptic story, but not the worst. And then Cupid, my pairing was audiobook with multiple narrators. This one I also went off of my TBR for because I couldn't get the audiobook for This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is the one I put on my TBR. I wasn't going to be able to get the audiobook on time, so I went with Lucy Foley's The Guest List. This is a isolated setting mystery that a bunch of people went gaga over back in the day. I thought this was okay. It was a decent mystery. I did figure it out about halfway through. I don't know if the reason that people thought it was so great was because they couldn't figure it out, but I figured out everything about halfway through. But it was still okay. It was still a decent read. It had full cast for the audiobook, so that probably helped it a little bit. But we are at a wedding. Let's see, I can't even remember their names. Let's see. Where's my character guide now? We are following a certain number of people at this wedding. The best man's wife, who is the +1. We're following the bridesmaid, Olivia, the only bridesmaid. Following the best man, Jono, who's not really the best man. He just kind of talked himself into it. And we're following Jules, the bride. I think that's it. I could be wrong. There could be more. But we're seeing everybody's... Oh, and the wedding planner. We follow her too. We're seeing from their point of view, what's going on from the day before the wedding when everybody goes out to this island that the wedding's on, to the murder and the after fact. I don't want to spoil anything for the 5 people out there who haven't read this yet, but oh, it's right here. The bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid all have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. That is what it says on the back, and that is basically what it is. It's a simple mystery where you follow multiple possible murderers to the one that did it. And then, where am I? Donner. A book that must have something on the cover that is in the title. This is probably the best book I read for the readathon, the Sn Down Motel. I absolutely adored this book. I thought it was great. Simone St. James. This is the second book I've read from them, and it was the Broken Girls I read. Didn't really, it was okay. But this one I really, really enjoyed. So this book is about Carly, who decides that she wants to go to New York and see if she can figure out what happened to her Aunt Viv after her mother dies. Her mother never really talked about her sister Viv when she was growing up, but she only knew that something happened, that she disappeared. So she goes to New York to the Sn Down Motel where Viv, her aunt, was last seen in 1982, and she was working the night shift at the motel. Carly ends up going to the hotel and ends up not only getting a job as the night shift clerk at the hotel, but she also ends up staying in the same apartment that her aunt stayed in. And she starts researching and trying to figure out what happened to her aunt. Come to find out, there were a bunch of disappearances and murders that happened in that time period-ish, and Carly is trying to connect them, get them all figured out. And the same time, there are ghosts at the motel. A child that lost his life in the pool, she sees his ghost. She sees the ghost of a woman wandering around, and she sees the ghost of a salesman. This book connects all of that together in a rather interesting way. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. Carly goes into like a spiral. It was really good. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know if it was just I just needed that type of a book at the time, and it's not as good as I'm remembering it, but I really enjoyed reading that one. And then let's see. Blitzen, choose 3 books at least 3 years old, randomly select one. The books I had on that were these 2, which obviously didn't get selected, and Nemesis Games, which is the 5th book in the Expanse series. That's what I read for Blitzen, and it was also my Christmas Star, a book over 500 pages. That one, I can't tell you too much about it because it's the 5th in the series, but I can tell you that like the first half of the book was slow, and it had a whole bunch of foreshadowing, just telling you what is coming, but it wouldn't actually get to it. And then the second half was just boom, here it is. Bam, there you go. And it ended up being a pretty okay read, but in the first part, I was getting real bored with it. It took a while to read that, but the second part, I mean, just, it flew by. And the next read was No Eyes on the Cover for Rudolph, and for that, I read Small Town Slasher, which was an e-arc I got from Tor Death by Books. And here we go, by Stephanie Rose. So basically, the author is definitely a fan of the Scream franchise, and unfortunately it seems that she was trying to write a fandom of that franchise, something that would fit into the universe, but unfortunately she only managed to come up with what ended up being like a subpar knockoff of the concept behind the theme of the Scream films. The main character basically towed the line in the beginning of the book from being way too whiny and complaining, way too much, so close to being the most unlikable character I've read all year long, to she kind of just got kicked out of the spotlight in the middle of the book, and it became okay because you didn't see as much of her. So it wasn't just overwhelmingly complaint after complaint after complaint and whining and whining and whining. But in the middle of the book, we start following other characters that, you know, cannon fodder, so they had to follow them so that we could watch them die. The book follows the basic slasher sequel outline. This is all what happened in the 25th anniversary of an original massacre, so this is like a sequel. So there are lots of kills and over-the-top type kills that you would usually find in the part 2s. And once you figure that out, it's a sequel-esque. You can enjoy it for more of like what it is there for. You're not getting the original story, you're getting we're here for the kills. Did we get a decent backstory for the massacre? No, we did not. Did we get decent motive for the massacre? No, we did not. Did we get some fun kills? Yeah. Yes, we did. Most of them, though, were rehashes from things that you can see in the movies. But it was fun to, you know, read about them instead of watch them, and then you can picture it yourself and however detailed you want to get in your mind. And it was a high body count because it was a sequel-ish type book. And all in all, it was an okay read. Nothing groundbreaking, but it had detailed but not overly gory descriptions of the kills. And this is a slasher that I would be able to recommend to people who are maybe looking to stick their toes into the genre and aren't really into it yet. This is something that I might recommend for them. And then my last read, let me go over this. The bonus ones, we had to read the bonuses. The Christmas Star was Nemesis Games, a book over 500 pages. That went with my Blitzen. Christmas Lights was an ebook. That went with Rudolph, my e-arc of Small Town Slasher. Christmas Carol was an audiobook, and that went with Cupid, which was an audiobook with multiple narrators. Christmas Tree, something you don't normally read. That was my literary fiction, Memoirs of a Geisha. And then Christmas Elf was a book that was on your shelf for a long time. My TBR vet, I went with Severance. And then my Slaying It book ended up being my original Prancer book, a book with more than 7 syllables, How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. And I know I said that this was the best read of the readathon for me, but this one had me laughing out loud and chuckling all the way through all 392 pages. This one was so much fun. I'm looking forward to reading the second one as soon as I can get it from the library. And basically we follow Davi, who is stuck in a time loop, reliving the same, not day, because depending on her life, the same cycle. And we start at life 237. And she decides, life 237, when she wakes up, that whatever it is she's doing, it's not working. It's not working, so screw it. Instead of trying to save the world, she's gonna go and try to become the Dark Lord, instead of trying to become the person that stops the Dark Lord. And that's where we start this book. Oh wait, she already has 237 lives under her belt, and as you can imagine, she is already tired of this whole cycle. So we get the whole attitude, and it's just a very fun read. I would recommend this if that's the type. It's hard to recommend this because it's humor, and humor doesn't, it hits differently with everybody. But from what I've heard, most people who do read this do like it, and I would and have already recommended this to people. Because, I mean, even in the epilogue, I started laughing, and it doesn't really stop. And of course, it comes with its own content warning, being the story that it is. Davi speaks casually of self-harm and suicide. She's in a time loop that when she dies, she restarts it, and there are times when she wants to restart it, so you're gonna get that. And that, my friends, is everything I've read for the Reindeer Readathon this year. It was a bad book stack. There we go. That is everything I read for the Reindeer Readathon this year. All 10 prompts. Let me know if you participated in the Reindeer Readathon and what was your favorite book of the readathon this year. And I'll see you next time.